I have spoken before this wonderful audience many times, and every time I think I have found the words to say what had to be said. Tonight is different. Tonight my colleagues have asked me to help us honor the legacy of Yogi Berra. To say the least, Mr. Berra transcended the limits of the English language. He did so in what he said, and more than that, he did so in how he lived. There just aren't words adequate to the task. We're about to present to his family the Hyland Hummel Award for Meritorious Service to Sport, but those few words don't say what we need to say either. We could talk about Yogi Berra, the player, the catcher, the winner of 10 World Series. We could talk about Yogi Berra, the manager, the coach, the confidant, the teacher. We could talk about Yogi Berra, the veteran, the sailor, the survivor of the Normandy invasion. We could even talk about Yogi Berra, the man who taught George Steinbrenner, an owner, right from wrong. But tonight I would like us to remember Yogi Berra, the native of St. Louis. He was one of us, born on the Hill, a neighborhood as neighborhood should be, baptized at St. Ambrose, a church that really is a church. He was nurtured here, learned to play ball here, and he remains our pride and joy. We have a video.
Yogi Berra is a national icon, an American folk hero. Over the years, we have laughed at his yogiisms, everything from "nobody goes there anymore, it's too crowded," to the now legendary "it ain't over till it's over." But Yogi Berra, the man, is so much more than just funny sayings. Born in St. Louis in 1925, he was the son of Italian immigrants and grew up during the Great Depression of the 1930s. From his family, he learned the values of hard work, perseverance, honesty, integrity, and loyalty. As a teenager serving in the Navy during World War II, he participated in the greatest military operation in mankind's history, the invasion of Normandy in June of 1944. After the war, he anchored the great Yankee dynasty from 1947 to 1963. During this time, other stars such as Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, and Whitey Ford may have shone brighter, but none were more important to the Yankees' success than was Yogi Berra. He played a major role in the Yankees winning 10 World Championships during his Hall of Fame career. Yogi himself won 3 Most Valuable Player awards. But to Yogi, individual accomplishments were unimportant. What mattered most was the success of the team. Yogi Berra is more famous and beloved than he ever could have possibly imagined. As a youth, playing ball on the sandlots of his hometown in St. Louis, Missouri. Yet through it all, the most amazing thing about Lawrence Pietro Berra is that all the fame, fortune, and adulation has not changed him. He's the same person he's always been, a shy and modest man of great character, dignity, and humility. At a time when the world of sports has produced so few good role models for our kids to look up to, Yogi Berra represents everything we want our kids to be. And for all his accomplishments in a remarkable life, Yogi himself wants his lasting and living legacy to be the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center here in Montclair, New Jersey, a place where children can come to learn not only about baseball, but also about family, community, science, society, history, culture, and so much more. Indeed, a man's true greatness should not be measured by what he accomplished for himself in his lifetime, but how he touched the lives of other people. Yogi Berra has touched millions of people. He is so much more than just a Hall of Fame ball player. Yogi Berra is a Hall of Fame man.
time when so many in positions of such crude, unvarnished power are so willing to say so much bad about our city, let us say this: how bad can St. Louis be if it can produce Yogi Berra? We have here tonight, as Rick indicated, the Berra family, Mr. Berra's son, Larry, and his granddaughter, Lindsay. Please help us honor the memory of their father and grandfather, the one and only Yogi Berra. Okay, we're going to get some pictures here. Let's turn it around. Okay, there we go. Is that good, Bill? Okay, why don't you speak?
Before my lovely daughter speaks, I just wanted to say that sitting looking up this way, that something unusual took my eye, and it was that big NY on the wall back here amongst all those St. Louis Cardinal guys. And I just wanted to, I know I'm in St. Louis, and if that was an STL, you might have a lot more world championships to cheer about. But that's the American League. But since you're in the National League, go Cards.
Ooh, I'm short. Grandpa would certainly say that too, go Cards. He was definitely a Cardinals fan till the very end. Everybody in this room knows what an incredible baseball player my grandfather was. We don't really have to talk about the stats, but when there's so many young ball players here, there is one that I like to mention just to give you all something to shoot for. In 1950, Grandpa had 656 plate appearances. He played 151 games as a catcher. He hit .322, and he struck out 12 times. So let's work on that pitch selection for next year, maybe, okay? But as great as my grandfather was as a baseball player, he really was a much better man. When he passed away, we were all so overwhelmed by the literally thousands of people who reached out to us to tell us their own personal Yogi story about that one time they met Grandpa and he made them feel like the most important person in the world, or people who had never met Grandpa but still had a story about how he had some way touched their lives. And it was really stunning to us to learn that as much as I love my grandfather, as much as my father loved his dad, these other people loved him that much too. But then you think about it the other way, and it's not that hard to understand because he really was that easy to love. He was so kind and compassionate. He worked hard. He treated everyone he met with the exact same kind of dignity and respect, no matter who they were. He did the right thing so often when it was the hardest thing, and he was the very best at what he did without ever, for even a second, thinking he was better than anyone else. And it really was St. Louis that made him that kind of man. He grew up on the Hill, where he learned the value of community, the value of family, about taking care of one another. He learned hard work by watching his father in the brickyards. He learned about love and sacrifice when his older brothers took extra jobs so he could have a chance to play baseball. And I think that he worked his whole life to make his family and that community proud. It was St. Louis, the Hill, Ducky Medwick, and the Cardinals that made my grandfather love baseball. And it was in St. Louis that he met my Grammy Carmen at Big E's, who was the real love of his life. We all know how that goes. So Grandpa may have left St. Louis for the dreaded New York Yankees, and New Jersey may have become his adopted home, but I think we all know that he never really left St. Louis. Joe Garagiola grew up across the street from him on the Hill, where all of these really famous fellas now, Hall of Fame way, they grew up, and they were best friends for 90 years. Grandpa was still talking to Joe on the phone the week that he passed away. My dad is real good friends with Joe Garagiola Jr., my grandfather's father and Joe's dad were friends, and now I'm very happy to say that Meredith Gragiola, Joe's granddaughter, is a friend of mine. So 2 kids, we never grew up on the hill, we didn't live there, but that relationship that started there has continued on through us, and I think that that's pretty neat. Grandpa would meet people from St. Louis all the time, and he would say, "Oh, where are you from? Where did you like to eat? I was a busboy at Ruggieri's." He would like to find out what everyone really thought and what things were going on at home. He had so many family members that are still out here, all of them really, and many of them are here tonight. And he was definitely always following his beloved St. Louis sports teams. I would be in the, over at the house or whatever, and he would say, "Hey, Slim, Shorty." He always called you Slim or Shorty, whether you were tall or fat, or it didn't matter. And he would say, "Take out that phone thing and tell me how the Billikens are doing." And last winter, I remember I was with Grandpa, and he had a nurse named Marie who was from Haiti. And she looked at me and she said, "What on earth is a Billiken?" And I didn't have a good answer, so I looked it up and I read her the definition, and I didn't know this, and you guys probably do, but I'll read it anyway. A Billiken is a mythical good luck figure who represents things as they ought to be. And as I look back at that now that Grandpa is gone, I really think that that's kind of poignant, because if anyone ever represented things as they ought to be, it was my grandpa. And that... Okay. That is really his legacy of being a good person, and that's what we teach people at the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center in New Jersey. We see 20,000 school kids a year, and they come to the museum for character education programs. They learn Grandpa's values of teamwork, leadership, respect, inclusion, hard work, dignity, just the list goes on and on. They learn a little bit about being good athletes, but they really do learn more about being better people. It's a great place. It was his baby. You can read the information that we put on the tables. You want to visit Joni outside, she can, this is Joni, she can tell you more about it. Anybody who wants to come to New Jersey and visit the museum, you're more than welcome. We'll give you a personal tour. It's a terrific place. I do think Grandpa would be really proud to get this award in his hometown, so thank you. He loved St. Louis very, very much, and warms my heart to see how many people in St. Louis love him back, so thank you very much.